Till death do us part. Does it really mean that you should stay married at any cost, by any means necessary, whatever the consequence? Is that to be taken so literal that a person should stay in a relationship even if the death should come at the hands of the other partner? Let us look at that and more in this video. Hi guys, welcome back to the Jamaican Experience with Yaz, where I bring you a Jamaican experience that transcends sand, sea, and sensimilia. If you're new here, special welcome. If you like the video, leave us a thumbs up, share, and subscribe for more great content like this. Also, if you like the video, leave a big yes in the comments below so we can know what type of content you like, what type of content resonates with you, what type of content to create more of. Remember to follow me on Instagram at Yazzle. In this video, we're going to be examining an article published in the Jamaica Gleaner 6 days ago. To be more specific, Sunday, December 13th. And this article is entitled, Story of Redemption. Broken Wrist Saves Couple. All right, just take a second, and think about that title for a minute. What do you think this is possibly about? Before I jump into this video, I should also say that this is not the type of content that I like to cover. I don't like to do videos, that are so negative. I wanted to do this channel, all things Jamaican, but more to focus on the positive side of Jamaica, because there's just so many positive, so many good things about Jamaica that needs to be constantly highlighted. Too many negative things are out there, but something like this needed to be addressed because it has serious implications, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that's talking about this, especially as it concerns or as it relates to victims of abuse, particularly victims of domestic violence or sexual violence or violence against women. In an effort not to make this video too lengthy, I'm going to speed it up a bit. So basically this article is about domestic violence. This article, if you ask me, is glorifying domestic violence. I saw this headline posted on social media, on the Jamaica Gleaner, on their social media page. And of course, I also saw other people on social media, popular people on social media, reposting this article as well. Now, this headline is supposed to generate some sort of shock value, some sort of, supposed to be some sort of sensational journalism, right? Now, to what extent should a media entity take sensational journalism? Is this going too far? Now, if you're familiar with the article, you're probably already outraged. And the reason I'm covering this week is because I'm also outraged, and I want to analyze and break down, like, what could possibly be the rationale for a media entity to think that it is appropriate to do, let alone to publish an article like this. So I'm going to read the first few lines. Just listen to how this article starts off. Christopher Allen lifted his hand to hit his wife Antoinette Nelson Allen, but felt like he had hit a cast iron. The impact broke his wrist. That was the last time I lifted my hand to hit her. Following the incident, we started therapy, which led us to give our lives to the Lord, the husband stated. Let's talk about this. And I really want to get your feedback on this topic. So I really want to hear what you have to say. Go ahead and let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. Just from reading those few lines, I'm already outraged. This is to suggest that the man, upon hitting his wife so many times, this time he broke his wrist and he found God thereafter, and in breaking his wrist, this is after years and years and years of abuse. The article went on to say it has been 7 years of love, joy and peace in their relationship since, but it took the couple 20 years of physical, mental and emotional abuse to get to the point where they were able to share their story during the just concluded 16 days of activism. Now, the 16 days of activism calls for the end to gender-based violence against girls and women. And this was started way back in 1991 by the Women's Global Leadership Institute. And this has continued year after year, each year to be by the Center of Women's Global Leadership. It is used as an organizing strategy by individuals and organizations around the world to call for the prevention and elimination of violence against women and girls. That is what this 16 days of activism is about. Calling for the end of violence, for us to eliminate violence, gender-based violence against women and girls. Now, I want to know, based on everything I just said about this 16 days of activism and what it is and what it calls for and what the purpose of this thing is, why is it appropriate for the Gleaner to post an article like this? Let's just speed this up a bit, because this is not a comfortable topic for me. This is not something that I really want to be talking about, because I just think it is so abhorrent, it's so terrible, it's so repulsive. I can't believe that the Gleaner would think it's appropriate to write an article like this. So let us just run it down real quick. So apparently this article is supposed to hear from the male's perspective about him abusing his wife and how he has changed. All right, so that's the basis of this, hearing from the male, as if we needed to hear from him. This couple has been together for 27 years, according to this article. And 20 years out of that 27 years, well, they actually said in excess of 20 years of that 27 years, this woman was being abused. Physically, mentally, verbally, whatever, Ali. This woman was being abused all these years. And she stayed. She said it started when she was 17 and she was pregnant, and then she went somewhere and the man couldn't find her. Her mom called her, or her mom told her that the man was looking for her. When he finally caught up with her, or she finally went to him or met up with him, that's where the abuse started. 17 and she was pregnant. That's when the abuse started, and this has continued for in excess of 20 years, and she stayed. Now, I am not going to say whether she should or should not have stayed. That is her life. She's an individual and people are free to make their own choices. But in a world, especially in a country where domestic violence is so high, where according to an article published by the JIS, Jamaica Information Service, published November 23rd, 2018, actually says nearly 15% of women experience violence from a male partner. And we're mostly talking about physical violence here. It also includes sexual violence and all other sorts of abuse. I can link the article below. I'm not going to go into all of that. And there's another article that was published earlier this year, February 16th to be exact, February 16th, 2020. The Jamaica Constabulary Force reports an average murder rate for women as 13 per 100,000 females, which is higher than the 10 murders per 100,000 threshold for epidemics established by the World Health Organization. So we have more women dying here in Jamaica, right? In fact, it further spoke to Jamaica having the second highest rate of femicide in the world. This woman says she stayed and it has gotten better, and 7 years later they're happier than ever. This man goes on to explain that he made a mistake. He was in a bad place, he lacked knowledge, and he didn't know how much this was affecting his wife until he found God. He even quoted the Bible in there, right? And we're talking about 20 years. This is an adult male abusing his wife for 20 years. 20 years out of the 27 years of marriage. Right? Now, let us look at what some people were saying online about this article. Some people didn't even bother to read the article because they were just so outraged. Here's what people are saying. People are saying, people are outraged. People are saying 20 years. Some people are saying, from I read the headline, that's it for me. One person said, absolutely nobody needed to hear this man's side of the story, and I cannot agree more. Absolutely no one needed to hear. People say they're confused about the headline. Most people are saying this article should not have been published. People are saying that the Gleaner is extremely unprofessional for posting an article like this and insensitive. That is the false narrative sold to black women. She must go through abuse and struggle love to have her love reciprocated. This is a very irresponsible post by the Gleaner. It is already difficult getting domestic abuse victims to report the perpetrators and leave the toxic mess to now have this rubbish put out there to further encourage abused women to stay in violent relationships, to prove her man will change because he loves her and she's the one. Somebody says that he still needs to be evaluated because 20 years is a long time to be abusing somebody. The man had even said in the article that he's in a better place, he found God and he sought therapy. He got therapy. So that makes him all better. This person is saying he still needs to be evaluated. I don't find this to be good news at all. 20 years is a long time. He should be embarrassed. The person says this is shameful and unacceptable. Stop normalizing abuse unless you were advocating for him to be punished. There is nothing positive about this. We should never make this acceptable or seen as positive. At the Gleaner, this should be removed. Another person said this was designed for shock value, but nonetheless, even when you read the article, you're still outraged by the details that are contained in it. So it's not just a clickbait, it's also what is inside of this article. Outrageous. We can go on and on and on and on. The overwhelming majority of the comments are basically saying that this is insensitive and inappropriate publication by the Gleaner, and I could not agree more. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And to think that the Gleaner would publish this article at a time when domestic violence have increased significantly, not just in Jamaica but all over the world. But speaking of Jamaica here now, the domestic violence cases have gone up significantly and women are being thrown out of their homes. They're being abused more and more and more because their home. Children are being abused more and more and more because everybody is home and they're locked in. So I'm not sure what the objective was for this article and what exactly is the purpose. What was it written for? Why do we need to hear about this man, this abuser? Yes, he changed. All right, I'm happy for him. He found God, he changed, he's in a better place in his life. What does that say to the young girl or the young woman or the mature woman, whichever woman or person that's in a relationship that's been abused, when the person is telling them that they're abusing them because they love them, that they're abusing them because of something they did, because of this, because of that, because of whatever, and these people continue to stay and they continue to think that it's going to get better, and then they see a story like this, 20 years of abuse, and then it gets wonderful. It's all sunshine and flowers and roses. And I'm trying to think in my head because, in my what I consider to be rational brain, I'm trying to figure out, okay, so 20 years of violence, 20 years of abuse. How do you get to a place as the person, the victim? How do you get to a place where you say, wow, this is great, my husband has changed and I'm so happy with the relationship as it is? And how do you forget? I'd love to know that. How do you forget the 20 years of abuse? 20 years we're talking about. We're not talking about one case, 1 year, 2 years, 20 years, 2 decades, in excess of 2 decades of abuse. And this man has the audacity to take a photograph with his teeth showing that he has changed. I don't intend for this to be a long video because there's really nothing more to say except that this is repulsive, this is abhorrent, and this should not have been published. We do not need to hear about anything like this. We don't need anything more like this. We don't need anything that seems or purports to glorify abuse against women, even though that's not what they say they're doing. At least I need to say this on this video, that we have a culture that mutes or seeks to mute abuse victims, that makes abused victims feel like they are doing something wrong, like they are the abusers and not the victims. We punish victims for speaking up. We say that it's their fault, it's their this, it's their that. We even blame them for staying when they do, for staying in the abuse. A woman was abused once, we say, oh, she should have done this and she should have done that. But let us not forget that there's a lot of psychological manipulation. There's a lot of psychological manipulation that goes on in relationships, like violent relationships like this. Sometimes relationship is not even physically violent, but there's a lot of psychological abuse that goes on in a lot of relationships. So victims will stay sometimes for all sorts of reasons. We know the general stuff: finance, children. It's generally finance, though. You know, so many women stay because of that. Fear. Women stay because of fear, because the man threatens them, right, about what they're going to do or what they're not going to do. And I need to say, this is not just unique to Jamaica, but we're just highlighting this article here now published in Jamaica. And remember, I said that Jamaica is has a second highest rate of femicide in the world. For such a small country, that is abhorrent. That is terrible, right? And so, because we have a culture of silencing victims, what is this article supposed to do? What is the purpose of this article? Anybody who is a victim of domestic violence, who is wondering if they should leave or stay, or, you know, is going through some sort of trauma in their relationship and they want to leave, and then they read something like this and say, oh well, it worked out for her, you know, 20 years later, maybe I can just continue to stick it out a little more. Maybe it's going to change. Maybe this man is going to get better. Maybe the situation is going to change. Maybe you are going to die, because in many cases, the victims don't come out alive. In some cases they do. In some cases they don't come out. They don't live to tell the tale. In some cases, it's literally death do us part, and that death is from the other partner. So I don't see the point of this article, and I think it's insensitive, inappropriate, and it should be taken down. Mind you, it's been up there now 6 days, so I don't even know if it'll do any good to take it down. But it certainly should be a teaching moment, and I think it's something that should be addressed on a more official public platform. Because if you think about anybody that works with abused women or victims of domestic violence or sexual violence, and know the trauma and the psychological abuse and manipulation that goes on in these situations, know that this can be a trigger for anybody who is in any such situation, right? And to suggest to them that they can stay because it can get better, right? To suggest to them that it is okay for a woman to stay even if this man gets better. Because even if he's changed, why should she stay? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? And why? What is it saying to these other people? What is it telling them to do? Women need to understand that if they stay, they may come out in a body bag. Okay? So that's all I wanted to say on this. People were saying that the Gleaner is operating like a tabloid, and I couldn't agree more. I just can't imagine putting my name on something like this as a woman, whether I wrote it or not, whether it's my story or not. One more thing for domestic violence victims, for abused victims, there are channels, there are appropriate places that you can get help. You do not need to stay. That's all. You can get help. There is support, lots of support out there for you now. So you do not need to stay. In fact, you can see the link for some of these places in the comments below. All right, guys, that's it. Let me know what you think about this article. I'm going to link it below. Do you think that this can be a trigger for victims? Do you think that the Gleaner needs to be officially called out on this article? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And I should say that I don't usually like to do content like this. I like to focus on the positive side of Jamaica. I just felt like this is something that needed to have been spoken about. And the truth is, it is a reality of our culture. Our culture is infested with men who feel like they own women. It's a problem that we have, and it pervades through the society, and I don't know exactly how and when we are going to be able to fix this. But certainly, if we educate our women and give them options, it should be sooner rather than later. If you like the video and you want to see more great content like this, type yes in the comments below. Also, if you like the video, leave us a thumbs up, share, and subscribe for more great content like this. We upload videos every week, so hit that notification bell and you'll never miss a video when we upload. Thank you for watching, and remember, Jamaica is not just a place, it's an experience. And I'm really hoping that next week we can get back to our usual fun content, entertaining, fun, informative type of content, positive vibes type of things, because I don't really want to or enjoy doing content like this, but I really thought that this is something that should be addressed.